We've had something of a renaissance with the pitch clock and some other innovations that have come about in recent years. We've got some great star players. A work stoppage after 26, well, you'd be cutting your own throat. As for Soto, yes, he's holding it up. And it's understandable that he's holding it up. It's not a big deal. We're only at December 3rd here. But virtually every segment of the market is going to move after he signs. And when I say that, I'm talking, of course, about the outfielders like Hernandez and Santander. Where Soto goes will affect what they do. Even infielders like Bregman and Adames. If the Yankees and Red Sox strike out on Soto, they could be in play for those two guys, one or two of them. And the starting pitching market, let's say the Jays strike out on Soto, maybe they go get Corbin Burns or Max Fried. So there is this incredible domino effect that's going to take place once he signs. Now, we're not there yet, but I expect we will be there by the end of the winter meetings, no later than that. And once Soto signs, again, some of these other moves will start to take place. And when a guy is holding up the market, the way we phrase that, that's the way this works. That's the way free agency is. And it's just an order of events that is going to occur. And it's not as if, again, this is February and guys are just sitting there waiting. This is proceeding actually at a pretty good pace, the Soto negotiations. And once that is once there is resolution, we'll see some action.
Ken, I thought you'd be more of a baby. It's cold outside. So, but anyways, Soto a favorite right now. I know everyone's saying Mets, but there's some reports that the Blue Jays, much like Ohtani, are willing to offer more money. Is that a real thing, or is that just hearsay by Boris to try to get the market to keep going up?
I don't know where it's coming from exactly. The Blue Jays are in. There's no question about that. That's their main focus at the moment. The Red Sox are in. That's their main focus at the moment. Now, the reason most of us, AJ, including you and me, believe that it's going to be the Mets is because at the end of the day, if Scott Boras collects his offers and then goes to Steve Cohen and says, all right, here's where we are, Cohen has the wherewithal, the resources to say, all right, we'll go a little bit higher or maybe even a lot higher. That's the logical thinking here. It doesn't mean that it's going to take place that way. Maybe at some point Cohen says enough, I want to go about it this way. Maybe the Red Sox make a compelling case to Soto. They've got that great heritage of Dominican superstars. All kinds of things can take place. Toronto, I have a hard time seeing. I've said that before. Here's a team, doesn't have much of a farm system, has some interesting young position players, but there's the potential, maybe even the likelihood, that Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. leave as free agents after this season. So I see them as a long shot. We know the Dodgers are in there, but the Yankees, Mets, Red Sox, those to me are the three leading contenders here.
All right. Obviously, as our resident White Sox sufferer, is Luis Robert on the trading block, and will this affect the Soto move at all? If say, the Blue Jays don't get Juan Soto, would they pivot? I don't know if they have the prospects to do it, and go for a guy like Luis Robert, because he's very friendly team money. He's got a couple years left, and when he's healthy, he's a hell of a player.
Yeah, I've looked into this, AJ, wrote about it a little bit yesterday in our notes that we gathered at The Athletic. And essentially teams are saying, other teams, the White Sox are asking too high. And the White Sox are saying, we're not really asking anything at all, but we're not going to take nothing for Luis Robert Jr. Now, the problem with Robert is he hasn't played that much in the last several years, and last year was another injury-marred season. You're right, the contract is friendly, AJ, if he is healthy. If he's healthy and productive, it's $15 million next year, then a $20 million option in 25, and then another $20 million option in 26. Great if he's healthy. This is one of the most dynamic players who will step on the field, but the question is, will he stay healthy? So the White Sox, what I'm told is they're looking for one meaningful piece in the return. It doesn't have to be multiple top prospects or anything like that, but if no one is going to offer them anything more than, say, their 15th or 20th best prospect, they might as well keep him, see what he does in the first half, and then they could always trade him at the deadline. Now, the risk there is, yes, he gets hurt again, but okay, if he gets hurt again, that's a problem, obviously, but if you're only getting the 15th or 20th best prospect from an organization back, it's worth that risk.
Teams are looking at Clay Holmes as possibly a starter. Is that cap his market in the sense that if that's out there, only certain teams are willing or even have the roster flexibility to say, Clay Holmes will be our starter, but if it doesn't work out, we have other guys that we can put in there. Because if he says I'm a reliever, that's like 25 teams that are actually trying. But if you say I want to be a starter, does that cap his team availability or where he probably should go or could go?
First of all, Eric, I don't think it's one or the other. It sounds like he is open to both. In fact, he is open to both. I heard that yesterday. So if you're Holmes and teams are coming at you and saying, we kind of think maybe you're the next Ronaldo Lopez or Seth Lugo or Jordan Hicks, you'll at least listen. The difference is Lugo always had the capability of being a starter. He had the pitches. Lopez had been a starter. Hicks had not, and it kind of went okay last year. I don't know that it went great. So if you're Holmes, you're wondering, okay, can I really do this? He was a starter in the minors, of course, but maybe your value and maybe you see yourself best as a reliever. He's staying open-minded. He should stay open-minded, of course, and ultimately the decision will be his. But it's interesting that teams now are taking this approach where they look at certain relievers who have certain pitches and say, you know what, maybe that guy will be more effective as a starter and more valuable to us in that role.
Hey, Ken, I want to jump to the AL Central. I saw you write about, with your athletic colleagues, the Royals and the Guardians. I feel like this is a question that comes up often with teams like this. Will they do something really meaningful, really impactful? Obviously, they're not playing for the Juan Soto market, or most likely not even the Santander or the Teoscar Hernandez market. But to me, those kind of teams can make more noise and get those legit upsets going in the playoffs against a team like the Yankees if they have more thumpers. So do you think either of those teams will actually go that route?
I'm not sure. The Royals are perhaps more active than the Guardians have been, and we've seen the Royals do some things this offseason already. They signed Waka back, and they traded for Jonathan India. Now, they're looking for one more bat, as we reported. And ideally, they want that bat to be as powerful and productive as possible. No, they're not going to play at the top of the market. I don't expect them to even be in the Santander or Hernandez markets, as you say. But perhaps they can make a trade. Perhaps they can do something else along those lines. Under J.J. Piccolo, they have been aggressive. This is 2 straight off seasons now where we have seen them step out and do some things. The Guardians are in their usual spot where they don't have a lot of money to spend. They might have to trade someone to clear some money if they're going to do anything at all. They like their team, as they should. The team had an amazing year last year. But they're going to listen on Josh Naylor and Lane Thomas, guys like that, because once players like that start making more money, they've got Manzardo sitting there who could conceivably replace Naylor, then the Guardians, like the Rays, are always going to be in that mode where they're going to listen and maybe act on that particular player. So I don't see them being as aggressive in the market, but they have been trying to do some things. They did try for Matthew Boyd, bringing him back, for example. Obviously, they got outbid.
So this comes up real often right now, salary cap. You just said about the Guardians not really being able to do too much. If we have a salary cap, everyone wants the salary cap to keep the Dodgers down. Would Guardians have to sell their team and leave the city of Cleveland if we got the salary floor? Because if that's the case, then you can cry pity for the Guardians. But if they would still be able to come under that, like in that where the floor is of a salary cap, then they have the money to spend it right now.
Well, Eric, first of all, the way I just described that scenario, that's the way they are operating right now. I'm not saying whether that's the right thing to do. I would like to see more spending by a lot of teams, and the Guardians are one of them. But let's face it, in reality, they aren't in the same type of market as Los Angeles, so we cannot expect them to spend at the same level no matter how wealthy their owners are. The revenues just don't support it. Now, the cap question is really complicated, but you're right. If a cap was instituted, it would be accompanied by a floor. And I don't know that the union is ever going to agree to this kind of thing. They want the free market system. My point on a cap would be, okay, I get why the players don't want it. Free market is what all players should want in every sport. At the same time, is there a number, a percentage of the revenue where the players would be more intrigued? And if the owners want a cap, usually these things, it's 50 to 55% of the revenue goes to the players. Well, maybe the players get a little bit more in baseball because they're agreeing to it. I don't know how this is going to go down in the next couple of years. agreement expires after the 2026 season, December 1st, 2026. I'm not saying the players should take a cap, but if the owners are going to keep pushing this, all right, push the limits here. Give us 60%. Give us 65%. The owners would never do that, but maybe there is a number where the players would be willing to say that works. Now, the problem with this whole thing is that the players don't trust the owners to report their revenues properly, and that's not going to get off the ground. So if the owners push for a cap, what I see coming is a work stoppage, and that would be the worst thing for this sport at this time. We've had something of a renaissance with the pitch clock and some other innovations that have come about in recent years. We've got some great star players. A work stoppage after 26, well, you'd be cutting your own throat.
Ken, what you said, first of all, there's a couple things. One, what you just said about the cap is the problem. There's other leagues that have this cap, and now they're fighting because they don't think the owners are producing the correct revenue numbers to make sure that number is in the right spot. So there's a bunch of kind of lawsuits going around about that. But hey, whatever. We'll see that. Hopefully, it doesn't happen.
Work in MLB. I'm just saying real quick because there are so many things. These are real estate deals now too for teams. Right. So it will not work.
And the way they cook the books is, they count their baseball stuff, and then their parking's over here, and their concessions are over here. And it's a show game, and they move it all around.
This is a huge point you guys are making. It's huge. It's a key thing in the whole equation. The players don't want a cap to begin with. They are philosophically opposed to a cap, and I understand that. They want the free market. They want the market to operate as it operates now. Players get as much as they can, and owners give them what they give them. So that's the biggest obstacle, the philosophical opposition, which is understandable. If we ever got to the point where the players were at least willing to listen to cap proposals, what you guys are saying would be the number one problem. The distrust that exists between the two parties, from the players to the owners in this case, would make this almost impossible to imagine.
Okay, well, that takes me to my next question, Ken. The owners and Rob Manfred can change rules whenever he wants. Honestly, the players really have no say in it. So, in a couple years, the golden bat. Here we go, the golden at bat. You get the bases loaded in the 7th inning. Rob Manfred brought it up. I've been hearing about this for a while from people that I know. Why not? Why not try this? I mean, listen, you go to, we'll use LA. They got to choose between Shohei, Mookie, Freddie, Will Smith, Max Muncy, whoever else they have in their lineup. It's a bases loaded depending on the matchup in the 7th inning. Oh, Shohei, you just were intentionally walked. Guess what? You get to come hit again and hit with the bases loaded. I mean, I don't know. I've been hearing about this for a while. I've thought about it. There's some part of me that's like, it'd be kind of cool, but there's also part of me as a purist, it's like, this is absolutely freaking ridiculous.
I'm with you, AJ. I'm with you all the way. My instinct is that it's not baseball. It's not the way the game has been played for 100 plus years, and I just have a problem with it from that perspective. Now, you could say, Ken, a pitch clock is not baseball. Expanded bases were not baseball. All the different rules that have been implemented in recent years were not baseball until they were implemented. And that's fair. That innovation is always difficult to accept. Change is always difficult to accept. This one, to me, just goes a little bit too far. Now, Jason Stark in that article, which I recommend everyone read because he really lays out both sides of this extremely well. He has quotes from players, all kinds of people. And he also has different ways that this could be implemented. One way would be where it would only be available, I think, in the 9th inning when a team is trailing. That might be the way to do it if you want to do this. But to me, I just feel like strategically, you work an order as a pitcher a certain way. And I know that the strategy would come into play because you'd be fearing Ohtani coming up at any time in the 9th or the 8th, whenever. But I just feel it's a little bit too much for me. It's just too far. And I'm all for exploring different ideas, things that will make the game better. This one, to me, just strikes me as, again, extreme.
There you go. A lot of people were anxious to hear your take. It's a good long article. I read it last night from Jason Stark, Ken's colleague. It includes feedback from executives, players, etc. So go check it out. I'm sure you'll get a question for it on Fair Territory later this week. So Ken, thank you. Good to see you.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.